With great power comes agenda. A lot of agenda and lack of reading comprehension and just straight up delusion. In fact, in Modulo chapter 20, the only thing that doesn't seem to come with great power is great responsibility. But to be fair, Yuji is somewhat valid for that kind of, I don't know, that's a whole different conversation. This latest chapter of Modulo though, featuring the official return of Yuji Itadori, just seemed to like flip a switch in the fandom. What was once a relatively well-behaved, mentally challenged and illiterate fandom suddenly turned into the manga equivalent of North Korea. If you stray even slightly from the path of agenda, then you are publicly executed. Seriously, like nearly 3 million views and only 4k likes is a massively disproportionate number on a post that very politely expresses a personal preference, which was met with, just straight slurs. Nice. Now, I've dealt with YouTube JJK comment sections for over 2 years, and I've never seen insecurity and just pure rage on this level before. That is the level of insanity and like agenda kaizen that has been brought out by these recent Modulo chapters. The first major misunderstanding people had with chapter 20 of Modulo is who caused the second giant blast. Some think Yuji caused both of them, some think Dabura caused the second blast, and some rightfully believe it was done by Rika and Tsurugi. Now, to be fair, I do think leaks are massively to blame for this one because the initial scans and translations don't make it clear that it was Tsurika at all. Even in my spoiler review, I say I think it could be Dabura, so that's on me too. The massive issue with leaks though is that there are lots of people who, I mean, it was the same with OG JJK, right? They see the raw scans, they read the terrible translations, and then they stubbornly make up their mind about what happened, often because it fits their agenda. So when the official or TCB translations drop, these few people, just straight up deny the evidence of their own eyes. But here's what happens, okay? When you actually look at it in a more objective standpoint, it becomes a lot clearer. Tsurugi pulls out Soul Split Katana, and Rika says that she will decide the damage or give him the strength. All Tsurugi needs to do is swing the sword. And we know that, slashing with cursed energy is something that at the very least Yuta's power can do, because he literally does the exact same move, just on a smaller scale in Sendai Colony. Maru then looks directly at Tsurugi charging up a swing and asks what is he aiming at, before literally turning around to look for what Tsurugi is aiming at, and as Lightning very helpfully clarified, Maru sees that Tsurugi is aiming for a massive horde of cursed spirits racing towards them. We're even shown a close-up of what the actual cursed spirits that are racing towards these two look like to make it clear that Tsurika did cause one of the blasts, because we see those very same curses being sliced in the face with a blast of cursed energy. Not to mention the fact that the page before the blast literally shows Yuji and Tsurika side by side with motion and speed lines showing that Tsurugi is swinging the blade. Yuji is already in view of Dabura and Mahoraga's fight, so based on how far apart these two blasts were, which is a lot further than the image makes it seem, one of them literally had to be from Tsurugi and Maru because those two are currently the only party on the other side of Tokyo. Naturally though, this got at least 2 different responses from certain individuals. Response number 1 tends to be, discredit all of the evidence in favor of it being Tsurika because he's in the same position after the blast as he was before. And response number 2, say something dumb like, casual Yuji Dismantle versus all-out Rika using 60 years of Yuta's full power. Okay, so the first point just isn't true. Before the slash, Maru and Tsurugi are standing upside down on a giant branch above the city thanks to Maru's insanely busted curse technique. After the slash, they are both then back on Earth, so they very clearly did move. You can even see the motion lines as Tsurugi is doing the slash. When he is done, he just gets back into the same stance to attack Maru, but the slice was too shallow because Rika can't lend Tsurugi any more power, and Tsurugi can't yet perceive the soul to actually use Soul Split Katana properly. Now, it is unclear why Rika disappeared here. I'm not going to try and tell you guys what happened objectively, because I don't think any of us really know. Some think it was, a deliberate decision to take away all of the cursed energy and cause Tsurugi's full awakening, which seems to have happened either way, but I think it's probably just because the 5-minute timer ended. I mean, I don't know why the ring's 5-minute activation rule would be any different now than it was back then, so yeah, I think this is, makes the most sense. The second point about this being casual Yuji Dismantle versus 60 plus years of Yuta's power is just straight up agenda. This is the kind of thing that Twitter droids say without actually believing it. But let's be real, okay, and let's give our guys credit where they're due. Yuji Itadori did not just wake up one day as the strongest, alright? Him and Yuta both spent decades getting stronger. They earned that, they trained for it. It's the same for both of them. It's literally no different. The ring is just a conduit for Rika, which is Yuta's own power. Over the years of being a sorcerer and using the ring more and more cursed energy would have been imbued into it until that power is as strong as it is today. It's not like he dedicated his entire life to deliberately imbuing all of his power into this one ring like Sauron so that he could unleash it in a giant attack against grade 3 curses. Yeah, some people are under the impression that that blast was all of Yuta's power over decades expended all at once, which, to be fair, could still be true because of the heavenly restriction thing, but, you know, the scans that weren't translated with Google Translate strongly imply that this is just Rika using however much power she thinks is necessary to deal with all of those grade 3 and 4 curses. It doesn't really scream all out. And let's also not forget that Rika and Yuta did have a feat like this before, where they literally got rid of Kenjaku's entire supply of cursed spirits in the space of literal minutes with enough time to spare to get back and fight Sukuna. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could agenda this point right back by saying Prime Yuji Dismantle Cursed Technique versus Prime Yuta's Raw Cursed Energy, but I'm not gonna do that because I genuinely believe that's ridiculous and unbelievably dumb levels of mental gymnastics. If I tried to push that point, it would be disingenuous because I don't believe in that logic. I think it's silly and stupid. Now, my personal interpretation of this chapter is that this is Gege's way of showing us what Prime Yuji and Prime Yuta's power looks like side by side, and I think that is dope. I think it's really cool. It fits the narrative and the themes of JJK, and it does so without invalidating Yuji's current theme of isolation, because he's immortal, and because, you know, this is a showing of Yuta's power from beyond the grave. It's really well done, it's very clever. So yes, even though the actual feat itself doesn't prove it, I think this is meant to represent Yuji and Yuta surpassing Gojo and Sukuna by being the strongest. I don't believe for a second that it's Gege sat there going, I know what I want to show. I want to show that a casual Yuji Dismantle is on the same level as all of Yuta's power combined over the last 60 years. That's such a random and agenda-minded way of thinking. Now, due to a combination, you know, of leaks, agenda, and just Yuta hate being a trend at the moment, I don't expect many positive responses to this interpretation, and I expect to see many threats in the comment section, which is exactly why I'm emphasizing that it's my genuine interpretation of the chapter. I'm not trying to convince you of anything because, well, I know that that's pointless at this point. I've done this for long enough. I know there's no convincing anyone. I'm simply expressing my thoughts for the people that want to hear them, or the people that want validation for this interpretation. If you disagree, that's completely chill, alright? I respect that. Now though, I want to rant about what we actually saw physically happen, and I also want to rant about how unbelievably quick some people were to jump to dumbass conclusions, mainly thanks to leaks, again. And to be clear, what I'm gonna say now applies to both Yuji and TsuRika equally. When the page showing the slashes and the massive blast dropped, there was immediate chaos on every single corner of social media that I turned to. I saw things like, wow, Yuji just used wild cutting slash. Wow, that dismantle was stronger than Hollow Purple. Yuji just destroyed the city. And even, wow, Yuji's dismantle caused an explosion equal to a nuclear bomb. This is some proper big equals strong monkey brain logic, bruv. These blasts are literally 10 times bigger than the range of Sukuna's Domain Fuga and Gojo's Unlimited Purple. So yes, destruction capability and range-wise, these two attacks clear the verse. It's not even close. The size of that dismantle was ridiculous, and Sukuna fucking wishes he could do that, let's be for real. But unfortunately, DC does not equal AP, especially not in JJK. Let's look at the facts. Thousands of cursed spirits that are confirmed to be generously grade 2 and below were seen flying way above the city. We then see the dismantle flying above the buildings, and we see that every cursed spirit it hits erupts into a mess of blood and guts and cursed energy, which is normal. It's just like in the anime. The giant blast that we see is not the city being destroyed. You don't actually see a single building being damaged by either of these attacks at all in the whole chapter. And last I checked, Dismantle doesn't cause a big fiery explosion, so I don't know where people even got that idea from. The blast is just from that many cursed spirits being destroyed at once. It's an insanely impressive feat from both Yuji and TsuRika, insanely impressive, don't get me wrong, but saying it destroyed the whole city and was equal to the force of a nuclear bomb just because it looked big is like past agenda. We're just tiptoeing the line of straight up lying at this point. And yeah, maybe, you know, in the next chapter I will learn that I am completely wrong about everything in this video, and I will see that the whole place is wrecked because Yuji destroyed it all. In which point I will, you know, put my hands up and say, yep, I'm a dumbass, I deserve it, alright, cool. But until we see any actual proof of this, there's no reason at all to think it. We only ever see the dismantle go above the city and hit curses above the city, and we don't see anything actually happen to the city. So yeah, the AP of the feat itself scales to a horde of grade 2 to 4 cursed spirits, which isn't exactly proof that it's stronger than Purple or Fuga. Again, I do believe that both of them surpass Gojo and Sukuna, and I think there is a lot of evidence for that in this very chapter, especially for Yuji. I just think that this dismantle is not the way to prove it. Hey, Editor Allons here. I want to correct myself because I made a mistake. I don't think the dismantle did cut through the city, but I realized that even if it did, which it probably could do, like if Yuji did fire it into the buildings, it probably would do exactly what you guys are saying it would do. But even if it did, it wouldn't change anything about what it tells us AP-wise, only in terms of, you know, the range and destructive capability. But yeah, I feel like in the video I'm insinuating he couldn't have done that if it did aim for the buildings, which is wrong. I think Yuji absolutely would have been able to take out all of those buildings and take out the city in one dismantle. Yuji's unbelievable control of blood manipulation, his chainsaw-style dismantle pseudo-infinity, and his potentially guaranteed black flashes are all much better arguments for him being top 1 than taking out some low-level curses. When I try and explain this to people though, their brains seem to just turn off because they reply with cope or "you're just mad, Gojo and Sukuna aren't top 2 anymore." Dude, listen to what I'm saying. Yuji has definitely surpassed Gojo and Sukuna, which is good. The dude is on a different level, and I love that for him because I love Yuji. I'm just not interested in pushing misinformation for the sake of dumbass agendas. Now, as for the Black Flash thing, I want to let JJK cook a bit first, because we might have jumped the gun in assuming that he can do them whenever he wants. Because the thing is, Black Flash can actually be done at will by pretty much anybody. You can try and hit one and succeed, it's just that no sorcerer can do it consistently. Some absolute donuts think Yuji had mastered the ability to do it consistently in Shinjuku, which is dumb, because if he could, then every single punch would have been a Black Flash. But it wasn't. If Yuji actually does have a 100% consistent Black Flash success rate in Modulo though, then I hope JJK explains how he can do that, because despite what some people are saying, Black Flash is not just about eliminating the lag between cursed energy and impact. Bro dedicated 2 pages of the final arc to show that, you know, if it was just about having flawless cursed energy control, then Gojo would have been able to hit them consistently. The reason he can't, at least according to him, is because there are other factors outside of the sorcerer's control which make it random. So the whole, dude, he had 68 years to practice, of course he mastered it, it is just such a, like, just because kind of answer. But this is why I'm gonna let JJK cook, because there are definitely a bunch of viable ways that it could make sense. I'm not trying to say it's impossible or that it doesn't make sense, I'm just curious how it's done, that's all. Maybe it really is as simple as him just being chosen by the sparks of black. I always thought of that statement as more of like a, you know, hype moments and aura narrator thing, but if it's actually true and there is a jujutsu god that has blessed Yuji Itadori with the ability to black flash at will, make it somewhat clear in the manga, and I'm down, let's do it. But regardless of the explanation, for me, you know, if Yuji does have a 100% black flash success rate now, I'll still let JJK cook, but I think I'm gonna find that boring. For me, Black Flash is exciting and hype and special because it's not every hit. If every one of Yuji's hits is or can be a Black Flash, it's gonna lose the wow factor, it will just become normal, but that's just me. Now, when I said this on Twitter, well, you can imagine. People started like obsessively explaining why it makes sense for Yuji to have mastered it like their lives depended on it, with most of them getting it wrong, because they couldn't comprehend the concept of me understanding it but still finding it boring. And just to be clear, because yes, I saw some ridiculous responses on that post, Yuji's curse technique is not Black Flash, dude, please, let's not get into that, alright? It's not. But yeah, this post, when I expressed this opinion, it kind of just made people straight up angry, like genuinely enraged by someone else's thoughts, which is sad more than anything, especially since most of them didn't really understand what I was trying to say. Again, I'm not saying JJK won't be able to explain it, or that there won't be a viable reason that makes complete sense. I'm just saying if every single punch is a Black Flash, I'm gonna get bored of it eventually. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I wanted to leave you guys with something to think about for this chapter. Did anybody else notice that JJK put emphasis on Dabura not really knowing what to do with his new dark energy? See, I think that maybe this move can't actually one-shot Mahoraga at all because it just straight up doesn't do damage. It might not be an offensive move. Remember, Dabura's technique is not just light, it's light and an unpronounceable power of killing intent given form. So what happens when you reverse killing intent? Probably something related to bringing life, right? Maybe even the power of revival. Just something to think about. Anyway, like, subscribe, membership, blah blah blah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.